TJ has no problem with the role of Senate and belongs to a school of thought, because we have worked with him before, that believes that devolution must work. But there are people who we have struggled, including with himself, when we were doing civic education, as to the role and function and the place of Senate for a long time. I wrote an article in 2010, basically to deal with the, and it was published by SID, to deal with the questions of what's the role of Senate, what's the role of National Assembly, and particularly the negative branding that Senate was getting.
Yes.
Like by that time they were saying Senate is an old man place, a retirement package place. It's a place where you go when you have accumulated whatever wealth you've had in your life. And even in the campaign we had to fight. Myself, people like Sang, you know, people like Omar Hassan, we had to go through that very difficult moment explaining to people that Senate is an institution. There would not have been a possibility for any nation to pay an institution to go and sleep. Now, having done that hard job in terms of explaining, a National Assembly member takes us back. And consider, knowing that Article 96 requires both of us, the National Assembly and Senate, to protect the Constitution and present the necessary image to the public. Then someone goes out there and says, you know, senators should come to the gallery, senators are doing nothing. They're taking us back to basically a process that we'll have to start civic education from the zero, because when you go out there. But also, you take a share of the blame as the media. The reason is simple. We have sittings in the Senate, for example. That day, let me remind you, that day when we passed the Division of Revenue Bill, Thursday last week, in the news, it wasn't even part of the news. We had increased to 48 billion. You know, to the accounts that's going to the account, billion. But it wasn't an item, partly because there's general belief that we were doing an exercise in futility and therefore maybe the National Assembly was right. But second is because, you know, people have realized that the two houses are complementary, fully complementary. In fact, if you go to the chapter on dealing with bills, Article 109, 110, 111, 112, up to 113, it will tell you that if a bill starts from National Assembly and it concerns counties, and the definition of what concerns counties is loose, actually, including functions of county. Let me give you an example. If a security bill goes to National Assembly, security ordinarily in the schedule does not, basically, it's not function of county government. But suppose it says that the governor will perform certain functions, or the county administrator, at the district level, which is the constituency, then it will come to the National Assembly, a Senate. Suppose such a bill in the Senate fails by, you know, 2/3, for example, or the National Assembly refuses to accept the amendments from Senate, we'll have to go to mediation. That mediation really tells us that the two houses, when it comes to matters concerning county, are actually similar or the same.
Before we go on,
but the misunderstanding, you know, out there, both from everybody, including our members of National Assembly, is actually going to take us back, because it's an institution. Kipchumba is there today. Tomorrow, TJ Kajwang may decide after a few years that he wants to play a role in Senate. It's not something about, it's not personal. It's not like you want to protect for yourself.
Then let's explain this in as simple a way as we can, civic education for the public. Because we talk about all of this that's happening, and the public is sitting back and saying, okay, I think perhaps the only significant role that maybe many Kenyans understand about the Senate is that they have the power to impeach the president.
Which is
not exclusive. Yes,
it's not exclusive. Yes.
But let's delineate the functions of the two houses in as simple a way as possible that we can. The roles of the National Assembly and of the Senate, and at which point they sort of come together, and at which point there is that interaction.
Let me tell you the point at which they come together first. It is the appendage. It is the institution that brings to the public all issues of national concern. It is the institution that is the embodiment of sovereignty of the people. The will of the people is expressed through parliament. When people have elected their representatives, when people have voted for their senators, what they have done in a simple way is that they have told them, I have given you my authority to go and do that which the Constitution wants you to do for me. So that is what it does in one nutshell as parliament. But then there is now special functions that have been given to both houses. Both of them are legislative, both of them legislate. But National Assembly would enact laws that affect national issues, laws that affect everybody, laws that are punitive, for example, penal laws, for example, laws that helps to guard against fundamental rights and so forth, laws that helps to implement various parts of the Constitution and so forth. So they literally, National Assembly is a legislative forum. Basically, the only biggest thing that the National Assembly should do is to make laws. But again, they do what is called oversight, just to be the watchman of the people, to make sure that state officers do what they're doing. They do not abuse office, nobody pilfers national funds and things like that. So that is another duty that they do. And then the third duty, which may be small but very significant, is they show the diversity of this nation in one political platform. You see the face of Kenya speaking in one given constituency. But you go to the other sections of the Constitution 96, and then the Senate is given specific roles to deal with. Yes,
I would like the senator.
Let the senator.
Yes, at least
so that is very, very clear. In a simple way, we just make laws. We speak on issues of national concern. We watchdog national government, and we are the implement through which wananchi will speak to the nation,
to the national, yes, and to the government of the state.
TJ has done a good job in terms of discussing what Parliament does. Article 96. I see sometimes even the National Assembly members calling themselves members of Parliament vis-a-vis members of Senate.
Yes.
It is Senate versus National Assembly.
Right.
The two houses are called Parliament. Article 96, 95 actually talks about 94. Talks about our functions collectively, like
as a parliament.
As a parliament. That's the National Assembly and Senate, and talks about functions related to it manifests diversity of the nation and represents the people. It exercises sovereignty, protects the Constitution. So no house will say I protect and the other does not protect. For example, promote democratic governance in the republic, and then you go to chapter 96 now when you talk about National Assembly, and 95, and then 96 Senate. Now when it comes to Senate, first of all, we all do bills. They will do bills that concerns national government functions, and those are the bills you talked about, protection of human rights and so forth. And if you want to know that, you go to Schedule 4, Part 1 of the Constitution. You'll see functions of national government. Largely, that's the functions that the National Assembly does. Then the Senate will do the bills that concern counties, and those are the bills that concern the functions of counties and so forth. Now, 2 is that we deal with allocation of resources. We originate the allocation of resources to counties. That's horizontal sharing of resources among counties, and they originate the division of revenue bill. That is where the other bill has come from. So, but even if we are doing allocation of resources, we are dealing also with oversight of those resources. Whereas they check national government, we don't check national government how they spend the money. It's National Assembly that does it. We check 47 counties. We concern ourselves as, is Mombasa using the money well, is Nairobi. If you look at that function of 47 counties, 47 governments, we oversight those 47 governments, including us. Have they observed the principles of diversity? Have they done the issues? Even their appointment to county assembly. We have petitions already from certain counties to us saying that this county has not observed this county has not observed. We are so busy that sometimes I really wonder why would one even want to get more functions, because that function of overseeing 47 governments, because it says 47 counties and their governments, protecting their interests. And it's a very important rule. In Senate, we don't vote like National Assembly. We don't vote like by popular view. What we do in Senate, we deal with something called delegation. So Lamu County, which is a small county, is equivalent to Kiambu County in our voting in the Senate. That is why even if there are 6 nominated members from Nairobi, it's only Mike Songo who can vote on behalf of Nairobi, because we don't want Nairobi to get more than the necessary votes. So those are basically the what I could say. And then we have the question of when it comes to this question of division of revenue, I understand this challenge the National Assembly is having, but for lawyers like TJ, it should not be a problem. If you read Article 95, it appears as though division of revenue is purely a function of National Assembly. But if you go to Article 218, it puts together the functions, and even Article 205, 218, it lumps together. And if you go to Article 110 to 113, it says bills concerning counties are bills that concern money under chapter 12, of the Constitution. So if you read holistically, and Article 209 is very clear in our Constitution. It says that, you interpret purposively, the Constitution. Now ask yourself, why would it be possible that a bill that deals with money that goes to counties and the function of Senate is to protect counties could not come to Senate?
So in your view...
And actually, it is now Public Finance Management Act which gave the procedure with which that bill can come. It will come to us and then we return it to National Assembly. And even the standing orders of National Assembly and Senate have that procedure. Now the National Assembly Speaker did his job, wrote the letter, brought it to our house. We worked on the bill, we sent it. But before even it goes there, supremacy battles come in. And let me tell you where it came from. Of course, TJ is playing diplomacy. But the problem was our meeting in Mombasa. We went for a retreat in Mombasa. The CIC chairman spoke in Mombasa. The CRA chair spoke in Mombasa and said CDF should not be managed by members of National Assembly.
And we were going,
but actually, out of that anger, the members in the middle, we are busy in the Senate working for the bill, in the middle, they reacted to the statement from CIC and CRA and said even this bill should not have gone to that house.
Okay, all right. And of course, all of this coming from CDF, and we'll talk about this because, without necessarily mentioning the merits of that case of, that's going to court about CDF and where it should actually fall and that it should actually go, and be managed in the counties rather than at the constituency level. But in your view then, before we even get to CDF, the Division of Revenue Bill, how should it be handled? Does it start at the National Assembly, go to the Senate, and then go back? Or does it come the National Assembly, go to the Senate, and straight to the President?
No, let me have a take of it because my friend entertains a different view. The view we have expressed is simple. That looks like the Constitution was very, very deliberate about this. So it had a divisional of revenue bill and county allocation of revenue, two different things. I always don't want to quote the articles because I think Wananchi wants to hear how it is interpreted more than that. But yes, I know it's 218. But so there is one aspect of it which is called division of revenue. Then the other one which is called allocation of revenue. All right. Now, this division of revenue is originated at the National Assembly. Now, there is an issue whether divisional of revenue bill is such bill which should be referred to the Senate. We hold the view that that shouldn't. We should discuss it because we are just trying to show the country how much money is going to be divided between national and county level. After that, it goes to the President for assent. Now, that is where the difference of opinion lie, because senators hold the view that it should rightly be taken to Senate so that they also look at it and refer it back with or without amendments. Right now, they have referred it with amendments. We are going to look at it next week.
And there's word that those amendments will be rejected or not considered.
Well, I can only say that it will be interesting to see how we will express our views on the floor of the House when those amendments come. But so that is it. When you go to what the Senator has alluded to, which is the act that domesticated this thing. Now the act talks about 218, Article 218, but only talks about B, paragraph B, which is the allocation of revenue bill. It deliberately does not talk about A, which is divisional revenue bill. In other words, it interpreted the Constitution and said that yes, the only thing which you need to look at is the revenue allocation bill, which needs to be taken to the Senate. But the divisional of revenue bill, handle it, take it to the president, dispose of it, and when now the senators are looking on how to disperse this money amongst the counties, yes, that is their role. So
which is what we're talking about as allocation.
Right.
So division, if we understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, division is just saying this is for the national government, this is for the county.
Yes.
Allocation then says out of this money, we
now
will
divide
distribute
it. Now that is really senators.
Can I say something
here?
Yes. I think, TJ, we need to look at, again, PFM law, because even the ruling of the Speaker says that the PFM law is unconstitutional by giving Senate the function to do the division of revenue. Yes, exactly. Because already, I think I participated in the drafting of the PFM law.
That's where the problem is. Somebody must have.
And it allows the division of revenue. If you look at Article 218, of the Constitution, and allow me to read this, at least 2 months before the end of each financial year, they shall be introduced in Parliament, the division of revenue bill. That's the section that he didn't want to read.
And in Parliament,
and Parliament means Senate and the National Assembly.
Okay.
So basically, I don't know why. I don't know. Sometimes, TJ will agree with me, in law, you can't say something straightforward. But it should be fairly closer to being straightforward when it comes to the question of looking at this money that are going to go to county. What will be the usefulness of Senate just dealing with horizontal sharing when they have no say as to how much goes to the lower house?
All right.
To the lower government. I mean, not the lower government, but the lower level government. I mean, the smaller level government.
Right.
That's the counties. If these counties are going to run, it is the function of the Senate. Remember, the reason why the 47 senators are supposed to participate jointly is because they are protectors of devolution. They are protectors of counties. How do you become protectors of counties if you have no role in allocating the resources? That is why CIC agrees with us, CRA agrees with us. All constitutional commission except National Assembly does not agree with us. I can tell you with no fear of any contradiction that because the Constitution says that if this thing is protected and goes to the Supreme Court, I can tell you without fear of any contradiction that the division of revenue bill shall be ruled to be a function of both houses.
Just to deepen the problem, and this is just to wind up on it, because I really don't cherish in discussing as though there is any tug of war. This thing is the same thing, and we will have all these things coming all the time when we implement the Constitution. But the issue is this: when there is a difference, like now the Senate has referred it to the National Assembly, supposing there is difference of opinion, the Constitution says that there will be a mediation committee of both the houses. Now, just in case, I read the other day the Speaker of Senate saying that Parliament is so wise that they cannot entertain any difference of opinion. But just in case the mediation committee were not to work out the issue, if there was a stalemate in the mediation committee, the Constitution says that that bill is lost. Now, divisional of revenue is such an important thing that we cannot lose it. So the Constitution must have created a system in which you cannot have a situation to lose it. And this is why we are saying that perhaps the Constitution wanted a situation in which we don't have to go for any mediation over this thing, for any refusal.
But clearly we may seem
because
to
you lose it, you don't have money, nothing.
Agreed, but clearly it seems we may be at the point of mediation. Do you agree, gentlemen? Or, do we see that this is a matter that's going to be resolved?
Not yet. If National Assembly, let me tell you today, even his party, they will never agree them not to agree with our money. We have allocated 248 billion to the 258 billion that goes to counties. If National Assembly refuses that money to go to counties, first of all, his party have always been having this assumption that we are speakers of devolution. Now, myself and Bill Okero, who are from Jubilee, were the ones who pushed for the increase of allocation of those resources. If their party disagrees National Assembly and they vote against it, they are anti-devolution. If National Assembly members, all of them, gang up together to oppose whatever, we will tell the nation, now the people who don't want money to come to the counties.
Is this the point then we should bring in mediation, do you think?
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's until
are you hopeful next week?
I don't think I can tell you, they will not get the necessary numbers to oppose that allocation. In principle.
Well, I don't think it is about numbers. I think it is just the wisdom of National Assembly. I think the National Assembly will apply itself very objectively in a very open forum, because do not forget that, yes, senators are representative of 47 counties, but National Assembly is representative of every single little constituency that there is. These are all our people, and everybody wants his people to get something out of the cake. So no father is unwise enough to throw away the baby with that. So
Honorable Kajwang, do you then see this, when Parliament reconvenes and discusses these amendments that have been made, including the addition of this money to the counties in terms of division? Is that something that will be passed on the floor of the House, and then this matter can be resolved?
Forgive me, but I want to be clever about this. I just want
political, give a politically correct answer.
I just want to say that I don't want to anticipate a debate, because it's something which is properly before the House.
That's right.
But I see the House expressing a lot of wisdom in this matter. I see the House, even if they were not to agree with the amendments proposed, and sometimes you have amendments, even if that person shouldn't have brought those amendments. But if they are good amendments, why would you want to refuse? Just because somebody else has...
That's a correct answer.
I can tell you, let me say this. TJ is not the speaker to try to be, he represents a constituency and a party.
Yes.
TJ was just telling you we will pass this amount. And as soon as they pass the money, they will have agreed with the position that we are proposing.
And you're hopeful that this will happen?
They will.
In the event that it doesn't happen,
if it doesn't happen, we'll go to mediation. We'll go to mediation. But let me tell you, the TJ was just trying to say that if things go to mediation and they never work, it was not anticipated. No. Even in US, there's timeline for making legislation. If a budget doesn't pass at a particular time, it will collapse. And they'll have to start from zero. And you saw in the Obama budget, I think 2 years ago, when it almost collapsed, the senators agreed and they passed the bill. Because basically, ultimately, if this bill collapses, if they refuse to deal with the division of revenue, we will not even have a budget, it will not even have salary. So it is such a way that it is already ingrained even in the individual interest of members of National Assembly and Senate that this bill should go, because there will be a standstill. There will be no operational even of National Assembly or Senate, because the money will be required to run the old institution. So we will find a solution. The thing that we don't want it to reach there is that, by the way, let me tell you, as a chair of the Devolution Committee and the chair of Finance, Bill Okero, we called, as a committee, we called the finance people. They give us their position. We called the Council of Governors. They told us, even if we give them this 238 and the 20 million grant, which makes 258, it doesn't make devolution start. It just, at the basic, we'll need to move next year to increase the money so that the counties can work. So we are not doing this because we want to be seen to be more supreme than the National Assembly. No, we're doing it because there is an interest of a person in Siaya County, for example. There is an interest of a person in Elgeyo Marakwet. For example, in my county, if the initial money went, they would get only 2.3. The county had budgeted, based on the initial allocation for CRA, 3 billion. Now, if we don't increase this money, there will be a deficit. Elgeyo Marakwet, as at now, has no capacity to raise resources locally. So, but by increasing these resources now, they are able to get a 3 billion and begin the devolution. So we are doing that for the sake of.
Also the problem should lie where it deserves, because the Constitution says we shouldn't have come to this in the first place. The Constitution says that before there is any debate between in the Senate or in the National Assembly, the speakers of the two houses should determine, they should meet and determine whether this is a county, a bill affecting counties
or not.
Because if it is bill affecting counties, then the procedure is very clear. If it is not, the procedure is very clear. So,
that is the point of interaction then of the two houses? So between the two speakers.
That is something which our two speakers, I think, did not put their minds to. On reflection, I think they should. next time I think we'll do it better and differently. We would first of all resolve that issue, and once that issue is resolved, we may not have this discussion.
Okay, all right. Yes. So that should be one way to avert a crisis.
Although, to be fair, I didn't want to make the National Assembly Speaker look bad, but to be fair, is the one who now wrote and said, I have determined that this bill concerns counties, and forwarded us to the Senate. So we have the
which was very proactive, I think,
which is good. Right. Which is we have to appreciate that.
Okay, but do you believe that there's forces within the National Assembly who do not necessarily support devolution?
I think so. If you hear, I have heard some voices, people say we want to scrap Senate. First of all, they express ignorance because under Article 255, you cannot do that by referendum and so forth and so forth. But you know, we've said as a House, we see some elements, in both sides of the coalition, who either they don't like devolution or they are obsessed with this supremacy thing in a personal way. As I told you initially, between me and TJ, we know that it's a jurisdiction issue. It will not affect me as an individual, but there are some people who carry it as if it's a personal thing, and so forth. We have said in the House, in the Senate, that we must carry ourselves with decorum, with a lot of respect, but we sometimes remind our brothers that even the tiger does not necessarily care of the opinion of the sheep. It's important that you do your job. Let the world, let the country appreciate. The Bible says what? It says that whoever is given little, little will be expected. Whoever is given much is expected. Yes. But if even the person who was given little does not do anything, that will be grabbed from him and given to the person who has whatever. So it's important for each one of us to, whether you consider your work to be little or more or what, to be able to deliver fast to the satisfaction of the members.
Ask me that question also. I'll tell you that yes, not only in the National Assembly, but even in the Senate, surprisingly, there are senators elected on the basis of devolution, and surprisingly they are fighting the same devolution. But that goes to that goes to the politics where we are. You know, there are people who never supported the Constitution. You know, there are people who said that they will never support devolution. Those elements are still very active in whatever divide of this House, and they would very cleverly want to do things that would undermine the process of implementation of the Constitution, or particularly the devolution. And so there are wolves they are there both in National Assembly and in the Senate. And I don't know in which category more of them are. But we are very concerned. Some of us who have died for reforms, people who have worked hard for constitutional change and devolution. I can take everything home, but devolution give me. There are people who don't have that resolve, and so they would be happy to have these artificial wrangles and issues that can really bring us to a stop. But for those who want to, promote devolution, promote the Constitution, we will always find a way to make things work for Kenyans.
Okay, so let's have this from you here now that we're able to have this discussion in a sort of sober, and let's talk about it, that perhaps this all emanated from CDF, and that the members of National Assembly do not have as much control over CDF as they'd like, and then, lashing out at the Senate over the Division of Revenue bill, and that at some point, if you agree with me, just from a layman sitting back and watching, this just seemed like a chest thumping between two men over who's more powerful, who's got the bigger muscle. Does this emanate from CDF and control of those funds?
Maybe that could have triggered it. But I think members of the National Assembly are very sensitive on issues that they think directly affect their constituents. One thing that everybody in this country agrees is this project of CDF, Constituency Development Fund, has helped a lot. Lots of schools have just sprung up from nowhere. Lots of bridges have been done. Children have gone to school, to universities, and people have done a lot, even when there was still the central government. In fact, people have been wondering, so why have we been having these budgets all the time? And until there was the Constituency Development Fund, nothing worked. it is so popular because it is the only thing that Mwananchi seems to have some direct say. So members of National Assembly would rightly, very sensitively guard jealously that kind of thing. And I don't know where it was from, but it may have been from one of those senators who really would have wished to have that system of CDF, and it could have been out of turn. It was really out of context for that to have happened. So when those emotions rent out, they do once in a while. People want to protect their people, but I think that put clearly, I have no opinion whether Senate should also have constituency development fund. I think they should if they could get that money. But I think it is rightly a preserve that needs to be guarded jealously. You say that members of National Assembly do not have a lot of control.
As much control as they did in the 10th
Yes, that is true.
Yes.
Because National Assembly have said we are not going to micromanage CDF, but we are going to be there as Uncle Sam
oversight
to oversee that these things are done properly.
But yes.
Can I say something? CIC, CRA, and other constitutional institutions hold a view that CDF should be there, including myself, and including the senators.
Right.
We believe that CDF must be there, but we think that there should be clear definition of what function CDF does. Schedule 4 of the Constitution allocate functions to only 2 levels of government, the national or county.
Right.
Now, you find that in this financial year, we will have a problem because many counties do not have county strategic plan. The problem is that counties will be planning, the county government plans to build a bridge in a particular area. The CDF is putting money in that bridge. They will put money in ECD, some ECD somewhere, and then the the CDF is putting a bridge. So first of all, it should be aligned to functions so that we have a clear function that it serves. Second, there is a debate, and this is where the problem is, whether a person who oversights money should be also the one that is running that money. And that debate still goes on. CIC believes that National Assembly members should have nothing at all. It is a discussion. They have said it's now in court, so we will find out what the answer will be. But my take would be that let us align, CDF should remain, but let's align it to specific functions so that we use our money effectively to be able to assist in effective use of the resources. I don't think the senators have said it in no uncertain terms that we don't want money. Yeah, CDF should remain one, but management, we leave it to the institutions that will determine whether the National Assembly should deal or not. Because when we even say a clear opinion and say National Assembly, part of us as legislators should not be handling money, they will say that it's because of supremacy, but we leave that to other institutions. Two is that senators do not want any money under them. Very few senators would tell you that we want some money so that we can control, because we are overseeing the money that goes to my county.
And on that point,
why would I want again to be having money? Who will oversee me?
Yeah, that's right. What is your take on that? Should members of parliament be actively involved in the management of CDF and then again oversight themselves?
No. And we have looked at it, in fact, in the parliament before. This was really discussed. And let me tell you something. This thing has been over-exaggerated. It is really overblown. If you go to South Africa, members of parliament are actually given that money on their personal accounts to be able to do some of the things that the national government has failed to do. If you go to other jurisdictions like in America, they give you that money and the congressman has the authority to put his hand on the paycheck.
Okay, but then shouldn't those laws be, based on...
Those are there.
When you say that, and there's the issue of salaries, Kenyans just think, we do not want the members of parliament in charge of this. That's what's happening there.
Right.
But I think what prompted all of this was the fact that there were some cases of irregularities with CDF in the 10th parliament, over misuse of funds, over nepotism in the CDF committees. And we know during that election that took place earlier this month, some members of parliament, it was rumored or alleged, were interfering with the electoral process and to try and see who they can put in those CDF committees. So let's just talk about that now. Do you think that members of parliament should manage the fund and then again oversee themselves?
That is very true. I mean, what
you think they should?
No, just a minute. You're very right to have described what the shortcomings that were in terms of interference with this money and misuse and all that. That is very, very true. And that is why Parliament deliberated over this and decided that no, members of Parliament should not micromanage the CDF money at all. But you see, there is an oversight. Just the fact that I am a member of Parliament for a constituency in itself gives me total mandate to be able to oversight things which happen in my area, because I am the collective will of my people. And so I am able to understand which in my constituency, which people in my constituency may have issues that needs to be equalized. And
allow me to interject though. There is the CDF committee itself that is also comprised of people from the grassroots and from the constituency who also understand that. Is it your belief that they are unable to make these decisions without the input of the member of parliament?
You see, that is where the problem is. The committee is just a committee. In other words, it is the forum, the structural forum through which decisions can be made. But you know that even recently, when the law said that these committees should be elected, that election is not an election. If it were election, then it would be an election which is subject to IEBC. The real election, and this is a very serious issue, because the real election that members of the public get to really cast their opinions is the election that determines who is the member of parliament. That is the will of the people. But then when that has been done, you are only elected so that you are able to superintend. I would call it a kind of something to superintend, not to be able to control, not to be able to macromanage anything. But that committee is a committee that helps you to make decisions. It is a structure which helps you to disperse that fund across the constituency. So yes, members of parliament should not have anything to do with it in terms of being able to write checks and giving it to cronies and giving it to buddies. But I think it is still very important that members of parliament have a say in terms of supervising how this thing is done, in terms of saying, no, I don't think a hospital is what these people need. I think these people need to construct that road and finish it first.
All right.
I think the ultimate challenge, let me first start by saying, without CDF, members of parliament will be up in arms. They may not pass anything in the house. Let me be honest.
Yes.
It is the only thing they promised over the election period. Yeah. They told people, I'll use CDF like this, like this. Very few said, I'll go make legislation, like us, who said, you know, we'll fight for allocation to counties, fight for legislation and so forth. So first of all, their existence and survival needs the CDF. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm giving you streetwise information. Truth.
As it is.
But two is that basically, if the debate, it will be very interesting how the court will rule as to what extent a member of National Assembly can go close to the question of resources, and that will define the future. Because again, there is a discussion. Look at the National Assembly. There are 47 women elected in National Assembly. They don't control CDF. They don't do, and they are in National Assembly. They keep asking, what's our function when these people go and inspect the CDF projects? But if you removed the CDF from National Assembly members, they would be equal. You know, they'll be equal to themselves. So that discourse will, continue for a while. But for me, CDF itself must remain. The discussion as to whether a legislator should do with it or not, I leave it to the courts.
All right. Without discussing too much the merits of the case, we do know about the Institute for Social Accountability. We had the director here who's mentioned the fact that they've gone to court to say, okay, we're not saying CDF should be removed, but it should be aligned within the county governments, so that is managed properly. Just very quickly, because there's a matter that I want us to discuss before we leave here, and we have, I think, about 10 minutes more.
I'll quickly tell you that.
Yes. Do you agree that it should go into the county governments?
They are creating a provision which does not exist in the Constitution. The Constitution says that there are monies which are exempted from the consolidated fund because they have been provided for by an act of Parliament. That is where you get the CDF. That is where you get the road maintenance levy and so forth. There are some of those monies, the ones they use to conserve the wildlife, for example, and so forth. That is how the Constitution has been clear. This interpretation of how it should be aligned to the county and so forth is an argument which seems to be brought about by those institutions that are, particularly I think the revenue, I think the Revenue Commission was one of those that made that type of information. I think that there is nothing that would align it more than it is really right now, because before it was aligned to the national government. I mean, there was money which was being passed by the national government, and always, every day, there was a budget passed to the DEO to be able to implement something. Nothing did. Right. Things are not going to be different. If, for example, you are to give it to a governor and then tell governor how these things, I saw the other day that some people were proposing that members of parliament will now be called and now state how they want the money to be used. It still not will work because there's no structure down to the bottom that is able to first absorb that money and to be able to use it. Right now, as it exists, with the committees that are there, with particularly the amendment to the Act, which is very, very fundamental, they have now fund managers who are employees of Treasury, that are professionals that are able to do, and these projects are overseen by Ministry of Works, professionals that are able to see that this building has been done to fruition and things like that. That is the only way in which local people are able to interact with this. And you see, it gives the villager the chance to directly come to his MP and say, man, I need some money for bursary. My child need to go to school. Where am I going to get my governor to be able to tell my governor I need some bursary?
Can I add something to that?
Very quickly, yes.
Senator Otieno Kajwang in the House, in the Senate, said something interesting, that CDF was John the Baptist.
Paving the way.
To prepare the way for Jesus, which is devolution. And he said that CDF was a good idea, but there is a better idea called devolution. And, you know, it's on the record. I'm quoting him. But what's important in that case, TISA says that that organization, and it's very important, the chapter 12 of the Constitution says that finance shall follow functions.
Right.
Now, CDF is not allocated based on functions. Devolution money is allocated based on functions. That's why it says you cost the functions and then give the money to devolution, and then cost the functions and give them to national government. In the long run, even if we don't agree whether senators, National Assembly members will manage or not, we must align the money that goes to counties with the function. If it is education function, which is a function of national government, then the money cannot go to counties. That's why I don't agree with them by saying it just goes to the counties. If it's for education purposes, we can say it is a grant, to county government from national government to manage specific function, which is education, then put its committee in place. So ultimately, in the long run, we have to align it to specific or provided functions. Otherwise, you will have that conflicting issue of functions.
Now, you know, there's the issue of salaries, which, you know... Yes, we cannot get away from it.
I told you don't ask that question.
We don't see this. Is the Senate, asking for more money? I mean, we've not seen them as vocal. You want more money as well?
Let me tell you something, including you, Yvonne. Everyone wants better money, better salary.
Except that we cannot determine it.
Exactly, you can't determine. And that's the point, by the way. The only difference is that each one of us, every employee all over the world, would want the employer to give them better salary, except that you cannot, arm twist. And one journalist I saw on Twitter,
John Allen Namu,
yesterday,
he was saying, I saw that
he was saying that if I attempt to untwist
my or to close the finance office, you
will be sacked. And for me, we took the same view. We really thought that Serem Commission never understood our role as Senate, never understood the resources that goes to running the office of Senate and running the county and so forth. We have made written submissions. We have requested that they review those salaries, but that is the only far the Senate can go, because really we understand there is a role that our employer or trade union in quotes, the Parliamentary Service Commission, can go dealing with SRC, and we leave it at that. Okay. We didn't think that we would go beyond that.
All right.
Yeah.
But I like how modest the senators are. The only problem is that
go beyond that.
I think the only problem is that they will reap where they did not sow. But let me tell you, this is a country of laws. We respect rule of law. That is the cardinal principle that we operate. Our democracy is based on laws. Incidentally, we agree that SRC has the mandate to review salaries. Yeah. No doubt about it. The Constitution itself says so. You couldn't be heard out there trying to say that SRC does not have a mandate. The only point that we are making is that yes, they have a mandate, but that mandate is exercised within the law. There is a law which is existing up to today, which is Cap 5, which is remuneration of members of National Assembly. That law is in force. It was a law that was that came to be after extensive consultation. You remember the Coker Commission. You remember the Akiumi Commission. All these things were codified together after an anxious debate and came to that law. If they have to exercise their mandate, they should look at that law and see how that law reflects on their mandate. Number two, there is Pensions Act, which governs the whole pension area. Nobody under the sun would want to negate principles of pension law, because that is what society is built upon. And people have taken this issue of money and salary thing to be a personal issue between legislators and the payee. Now, this is a question of institution. We are trying to defend the independence and the being of Parliament as an institution, not, you know, legislators like me come and go. Today I'll be representing Ruaraka. Tomorrow I'll be kicked out of the House. But there will always be a member of Parliament representing Ruaraka. You remember how we fought very hard, for those of us who have the history, to create an independent judiciary. People who would not go begging in State House as they used to go. We know judges who went with cups to be filled because they didn't have any really. And then one of the issues was to get their security of tenure. The second thing was to give them a modest pay that made them sit in the courtrooms and deliver justice the way it is. Now, Parliament is no different. In the eras that you know, and you were a big girl then, the people went and lined up in State House looking for fuel to be able to go to their constituencies, because you know you have to make that money from somewhere to be able to do that. So in one little in one term, I would say that this is not a question of how much I want to get into my pocket. I am fighting for the independence of the institution called Parliament. I am fighting for their independence so that they are able to articulate the issues of their people. How it is done must be within the law. Until you revoke these laws, until you go through the normal course of law, you are out of order.
The President has talked about this issue. What are your thoughts on that?
I am very disappointed, by the way. I am very disappointed that the President should speak over a matter which is still very active on the floor of the House. It is active in before the courts of law. The President should be the last person to give the last final word on any matter. It only seems to me, my friend, just give me a minute. It only seems to me that therefore the executive has done what we feared. That now this is a very deliberate attempt to emasculate the legislator, and the President actually is the one who is using SRC to take the stand it has taken, to go against the law and kind of intimidate or arm twist legislators by way of taking away that which really belongs to them. It is very unfortunate that the President talked about this when we are still discussing this issue and when a solution is still out there in the air.
Can I say something, which TJ has just said? The salaries of the legislators should be such that they will not be going to the executive to beg. If they do that, because I've seen even in social media people saying that MPs should do something else, which means we should go to Gikomba, sell mitumba, all that kind of thing, or do any other job to ensure. If we do that, perhaps we'll not give a lot of focus to our function. But my fear is that if the executive pay is such that there is a a huge gap between what the executive gets and what the legislature gets, there is a possibility that it will be easy to twist them, because little amount of money there to go for their fundraising and so forth will whatever. That should be the concern of SRC, the independence and the strength of legislature. But for me, particularly at the county level, if you pay the county assembly members 79,000 shillings, after tax it comes to 61, pay the governor 600,000, which is 10 times what the county assembly member is earning. What you're basically saying is that governor can set 200,000 from his salary every month to just take care of this guy so that they can be voting the way they want. Actually, and what I agree with TJ is that we should look at it from the institutional functioning of the particular institution. I really feel the one for National Assembly, County Assembly, SRC got it completely wrong. I mean, really, and it's going to disenfranchise the counties. I agree with the president. I agree with the president in his sentence until the last one. What I agree with him is that he said that SRC and Parliamentary Service Commission should work and resolve this matter. He never said that, he never ordered either way. He just said to resolve this matter. Right. I only know that he put a rider to basically look at the assembly, those who are going for salary, to look bad, and said, for avoidance of doubt, we'll abide by what has been exactly. But he was right. It has been my position from the word go that this issue of salary would better be negotiated outside public glare between Parliamentary Service Commission and Senate Examination Commission, and these issues be hammered, so that even if it's a review of after 2 months or 1 month and so forth, the necessary review is done for the institutions to be able to operate. Tell me, how do you deal with a senator from Kakamega County who is supposed to visit 12 constituencies, and you tell them you're only going to pay them 300,000 or 290,000, and you haven't given them any properly allowance or a car or an office to allow them to go through all those. How will they serve? Okay, how will they get information from their people in various
between
wards?
The Senate and how the National Assembly is handling it? Do you agree with the approach of the members of National Assembly in terms of doing this, with some of the statements that have been made? Because the Senate has handled it differently. You say you've written to the SRC, these are all negotiations that are happening. But of course, members of the National Assembly, like TJ rightly said in the beginning, are very robust in the way they handle it.
I don't want to, it's basically, we have a mutual respect between the two houses, so I don't want to say anything about that. But safe to say, they might have been put in that awkward position because they have the legislative function to deal with that legislation, which we don't have.
All right. I'm so sorry, because we've run out of time. And we thank you both for coming in, talking about the relationship. And I think this was, a more sober discussion than what we have. And perhaps just sometimes when those heated statements are made, we understand that we're all, robust, but it just worries the Kenyan. We just start thinking about what's happening with devolution. But thank you both very much for coming in, Senator Kipchumba Murkomen and Honorable TJ Kajwang. That has been our edition of Bunge. Thank you very much for joining us for this hour. We want to take a short break now. KTN Sunrise Live will be right back.